Welcome to Timeless Frames channel. Today we uncover the haunting stories of slavery, highlighting oppression, resilience, and the fight for freedom. Let's start. Joyce McKinney Case of Captivity, 1977. A rare photo captures Joyce McKinney, a beauty queen embroiled in a shocking scandal in 1977. She kidnapped a Mormon missionary and held him captive for 3 days, a crime that drew international attention. This unsettling story revealed the darker side of obsession. Cooking on Plantations, 1800s. A compelling image shows an enslaved woman cooking in the yard of a plantation. Despite limited resources, she prepared meals that kept cultural traditions alive. Cooking offered a rare form of comfort and resistance amid the brutal realities of slavery. Harriet Tubman's bold raid site, 1863. The site of Harriet Tubman's daring raid in South Carolina remains a testament to her bravery. She led over 750 slaves to freedom during this operation, one of the most successful in abolition history. Her leadership showcased the power of determination against oppression. Black soldiers demand equal pay, 1864. An unforgettable photograph captures African American soldiers during their fight for equal pay. Despite their service and sacrifices, they initially earned less than white soldiers. Their protest became a pivotal moment in the struggle for equality in the Union Army. Contraband slaves seek refuge, 1860s. An evocative scene shows escaped slaves, referred to as contrabands, seeking shelter with Union forces. These individuals risked everything to flee Confederate territories. The term reflected their transition from property to people fighting for freedom. Sharecroppers in Georgia, 1898. A somber photograph highlights the struggles of sharecroppers in post-slavery Georgia. These workers, mostly freed slaves, labored under exploitative contracts that kept them in poverty. Their lives mirrored the oppressive systems they had just escaped. Enslaved Family's Life on a Plantation, 1862. The lives of an enslaved family are vividly captured in this powerful image. Generations lived and worked together under cruel conditions, preserving their unity through unimaginable hardship. This portrait reflects both sorrow and resilience. The story behind this photo will leave you speechless. Don't miss it. Wynne Willis reflects on slavery, 1939. An aged Wynne Willis is seen holding a horn once used to summon slaves. At 116 years old, he shared stories of captivity and survival. His reflections bridge the gap between slavery and the ongoing fight for justice. Anastasia's Iron Mask, 1800s. The Iron Mask of Anastasia is a chilling reminder of Brazil's brutal slavery practices. This device was used to silence and punish enslaved individuals. Anastasia's story has become a symbol of the strength needed to endure such cruelty. Sorting Tobacco in Dutch Indonesia, 1897. A striking image depicts workers sorting tobacco in a Dutch colonial warehouse. These laborers endured long hours and harsh conditions to fuel a booming industry. Their toil highlights the exploitation of colonial systems. Omar ibn Said, A Scholar's Journey into Enslavement, 1800s. A haunting narrative emerges from the life of Omar ibn Said, an Islamic scholar enslaved in America. Captured during a local conflict, he spent over 50 years in captivity. His story highlights the tragic loss of intellect and culture through slavery. Sugarcane workers in Jamaica, post-slavery, hardships, 1800s. A photo from Jamaica shows workers resting in sugarcane fields after grueling labor. Even after slavery's abolition, many continued to work under harsh conditions for minimal pay. The sugarcane industry thrived on the sacrifices of these individuals. Thomas Mundy Peterson votes, 1870. An iconic moment is captured as Thomas Mundy Peterson casts his vote in 1870. As the first African American to vote after the 15th Amendment, he made history. His act symbolized a step forward in the fight for racial equality. Convict gangs in North Carolina, 1910. A grim photo shows African American prisoners resting after road work. These individuals, part of the convict leasing system, were forced to labor under inhumane conditions. Their work symbolized a continuation of slavery's legacy through incarceration. Slave pens in Alexandria, human trade in the 1850s. The interior of a slave pen in Alexandria reveals the dark realities of the human trade. Slaves awaited auction, often separated from their families. This image serves as a stark reminder of the cruelty of slavery. This artifact reveals a hidden truth about the harsh realities of slavery. American POWs enslaved in Japan, 1940s. A chilling image shows American POWs forced into hard labor during World War II. Held in brutal conditions, these men faced starvation, disease, and torture. Their resilience became a testament to the human spirit. HMS Daphne rescues slaves, 1868. A remarkable moment aboard the HMS Daphne shows freed slaves recovering from captivity. Rescued from Arab traders, they were given a chance to start anew. This image highlights Britain's efforts to combat the slave trade. Aboriginals in Wyndham Prison, 1902. A stark photograph shows Aboriginal prisoners in chains at Wyndham Prison, Australia. These individuals were treated as less than human, enduring brutal conditions. This image reflects the widespread dehumanization of Indigenous people. Punishment in prisons, 1889. A striking image shows an African-American man being whipped in prison. Despite the abolition of slavery, harsh punishments and forced labor persisted in the South. This photo illustrates the lingering systems of oppression. Silas Chandler's rise to landowner, 1860s. A rare photo captures Silas Chandler, who transitioned from being enslaved to a respected landowner. His journey included acts of bravery, such as saving his master's life during the Civil War. Silas later built a life of dignity and respect in his community. What if a single scar could ignite a movement for freedom and justice? Let's watch. Jonathan Walker as slave stealer, 1844. A poignant image of Jonathan Walker reveals the scar branded on his hand with SS for slave stealer. Punished for helping slaves escape, Walker became a symbol of abolitionist resistance. His story inspired many in the fight against slavery. C.J. Walker's success story, 1911. A proud photograph of Madame C.J. Walker in her car symbolizes her rise as the first self-made female millionaire. She built a beauty empire and used her success to support civil rights. Her story inspired generations of African Americans. Lives lost during the Middle Passage, 1700s. A tragic scene depicts the overcrowded, unsanitary conditions aboard a slave ship. Millions were transported across the Atlantic, with many dying from malnutrition and disease. This journey remains one of history's darkest chapters. If you are enjoying it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Slave Reunions in America, 1916. A heartfelt gathering of former slaves celebrates freedom decades after abolition. These reunions were opportunities to share stories, honor resilience, and discuss ongoing struggles. They marked a blend of joy and unresolved challenges. Former Slaves on the Frontier, 1887. An inspiring portrait shows the Shore's family, former slaves who became pioneers in the American West. They overcame harsh conditions to build a new life of freedom. Their story reflects the determination to thrive despite adversity. Did you know Confederate families continued slavery overseas after the Civil War? Let's watch. Confederates and slavery in Brazil, 1860s. An intriguing photo shows Confederate families who migrated to Brazil after the Civil War. They sought to continue their way of life, including slavery, in a country where it was still legal. Their legacy is a reminder of the global reach of slavery's influence. Enslaved workers on J.J. Smith's plantation, 1862. A somber image captures enslaved workers on J.J. Smith's cotton plantation in South Carolina. Their relentless labor was vital to the booming cotton economy of the South. This scene underscores the dependence on slavery for agricultural wealth. Solomon Northup's Shackles, 1841. A haunting photo features the shackles that once bound Solomon Northup, a free man kidnapped into slavery. His story, later recounted in 12 Years a Slave, exposed the horrors of slavery to a wider audience. His resilience became a symbol of hope and justice. Liberia's Bell of Freedom, 1847. An iconic image shows the Bell of Freedom, a symbol of Liberia's independence. Established by freed African Americans, Liberia became a nation of hope for former slaves. This bell marked the dawn of a new chapter in their pursuit of liberty. Underground Railroad's Safe House, 1856. A historic photograph shows a safe house used to shelter escaping slaves on the Underground Railroad. These havens were critical to the success of many freedom seekers. They stand as monuments to the bravery of abolitionists and fugitives alike. How can someone be both a trailblazer and a supporter of injustice? Let's watch this. Rebecca Felton's controversial role, 1922. A striking portrait shows Rebecca Felton, the first female U.S. senator and a former slaveholder. While she broke gender barriers, she controversially supported white supremacy. Her dual legacy reflects both progress and prejudice. Slave branding in the 1800s. A chilling image captures the brutal act of branding enslaved people with their owner's initials. These marks symbolized ownership and dehumanization. The scars served as permanent reminders of the cruelty endured. Fourth Colored Infantry Service, 1863. A powerful image captures the Fourth Colored Infantry, African-American soldiers who served during the Civil War. These men fought courageously for the Union and their own freedom. Their contributions marked a turning point in the nation's struggle for equality. Convict leasing of African Americans, post-slavery era. A stark photograph shows African American teenagers forced into labor under the convict leasing system. Arrested for minor offenses, they were made to work in brutal conditions. This system perpetuated slavery-like exploitation long after emancipation. Slave auctions in St. Louis, 1852. A somber photograph shows a slave auction in St. Louis, Missouri, where men, women, and children were sold like commodities. These markets often tore families apart. This image stands as a haunting reminder of the inhumanity of the trade. Don't forget to subscribe to the Timeless Frames channel. Hit this bell icon now to get more videos like this. Mrs. Sally observes Emancipation Proclamation, 1947. A touching photo shows Mrs. Sally, a former slave, reflecting on the Emancipation Proclamation. At 88 years old, she recounted her early life in bondage and the challenges of freedom. Her story represents the resilience of those who lived through America's transformation. Brazil's slave-powered coffee economy, 1800s. A photograph of slaves working on a Brazilian coffee plantation reveals the harsh labor behind the booming industry. These workers endured grueling conditions to meet global coffee demand. Their sacrifices fueled Brazil's economy, but came at a heavy cost. Posters of escaped slaves in Kentucky, 1838. A chilling artifact shows a reward poster for the capture of an escaped slave in Kentucky. These posters detailed physical descriptions to assist in recapture. They highlight the desperation for freedom and the lengths slaveholders went to maintain control. Lucy Higgs Nichols, honored for service, 1880s. An inspiring portrait of Lucy Higgs Nichols captures her as the only female member of a Civil War veterans organization. Once enslaved, she served as a nurse for Union soldiers. Her recognition symbolizes progress in acknowledging the contributions of African Americans. Did you know people were once put on display just to entertain crowds? Let's watch here. Africans on display at St. Louis World's Fair, 1904. A striking photo depicts Africans exhibited as curiosities at the St. Louis World's Fair. These individuals were showcased to satisfy public fascination with exotic cultures. The practice dehumanized them, reducing their identities to objects of entertainment. Arab slave trader captured, 1907. A gripping image shows an Arab slave trader under custody aboard HMS Sphinx. This operation was part of Britain's efforts to disrupt the East African slave trade. It symbolizes the ongoing fight to end human trafficking. Whipping post in Baltimore, 1900s. A somber photograph captures the infamous whipping post used for punishment in Baltimore. Though slavery had ended, this brutal practice continued, targeting African Americans. The image reflects the persistence of racial violence even after emancipation. Light-skinned children and the one-drop rule, 1863. A poignant photo of light-skinned enslaved children highlights the cruel one-drop rule. Despite their appearance, these children were legally classified as black and enslaved. The image underscores the absurdity of racial laws that upheld slavery. Runaway slaves captured with bell racks, 1800s. A disturbing image reveals a bell rack used to track runaway slaves as they moved through foliage. The device was designed to ring loudly, alerting owners to escape attempts. This inhumane tool exemplifies the lengths enslavers went to maintain control. Enslaved women as caregivers, for 1800s. A photograph depicts an enslaved woman caring for her master's child, a common sight on plantations. These women performed domestic duties while forming emotional bonds with the children. Their roles often blurred the lines between affection and exploitation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these powerful stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into history. Join us next time for more timeless moments that inspire and educate. Goodbye.